The question buried beneath stone. There are places in the world that feel older than history. Places where the wind seems to carry memories instead of sound. Places where even silence feels ancient. Baalbek is one of them, and if you stand before its enormous blocks of stone long enough, you begin to feel something unsettling, like you're standing inside a question no one knows how to answer. Baalbek is not just another ruin, it is a contradiction, a paradox carved in limestone, a massive engineering statement written thousands of years before humans were supposed to be capable of such feats. Its stones do not whisper, they scream. They force us to confront the possibility that we are missing an entire chapter of human civilization. The conventional timeline says the Romans built here, that they raised their proud columns and carved their ornate temples. And yes, they absolutely did, but only on the surface. The deeper you look, the stranger Baalbek becomes. Beneath the Roman stones lie older stones, bigger stones, impossible stones. Stones the Romans never touched, never moved, never claimed. Today, we aren't here to repeat the easy answers. We're here to study the impossible, to understand why stones weighing 800, 1,000, and even 1,650 tons were cut with such precision, why they were placed in perfect alignment, why they were stacked with surgical accuracy, why no written records claim responsibility, and, most importantly, who could have accomplished what appears to be beyond even modern engineering? We're here to ask a question that has been buried beneath centuries of dust. Did a forgotten civilization with advanced knowledge once walk the earth, and did they leave their mark at Baalbek? This is the Baalbek mystery, and today we follow the clues wherever they lead.
The valley that remembers more than we do. The Bekaa Valley in Lebanon is breathtaking, a vast, fertile stretch of land curled between two mountain ranges. Today it is quiet, dotted with vineyards and farms. But thousands of years ago, this valley was a highway of ancient cultures. Sumerians, Phoenicians, Greeks, Romans, all passed through, all built here, all left their mark. But beneath the layers of history lies something so old that even the oldest stories don't speak of it. The foundations of Baalbek are like a memory carved into the earth, a memory older than any civilization we can confidently identify. Standing at the site, your eyes are pulled not to the columns towering above you, but to the base upon which they stand. The blocks are so large they seem wrong, like a glitch in reality. They don't look like they belong to human construction at all. They look like something that should not exist. Yet they do. Massive rectangles of stone, precisely cut, fitted without mortar, placed with mechanical exactness. The largest, the legendary Stone of the South, weighs a staggering 1,650 tons. How do you move something that weighs more than 250 elephants combined? No simple explanation survives. No ancient text brags about the achievement. No engineer left behind instructions. And perhaps that silence is the most fascinating part. Civilizations love to brag, but whoever built this did not. Why? Why the Romans didn't build the foundations? Let's clear one misconception before we go further. The Romans did build at Baalbek, but not the megalithic platform. And this difference matters. The Roman construction style is well understood. Their stones are uniform, manageable, and consistent with their engineering capabilities. Their architecture relies on arches, columns, and decorative detail, not on giant blocks the size of houses. The Romans were brilliant engineers, but they were also practical. They used stone that could be quarried, shaped, and moved efficiently. The stones at the base of Baalbek fit none of these categories. Roman architectural blocks weigh between 10 and 50 tons, extremely heavy, but within the limits of their mechanical systems. Roman cranes max out at around 5 to 10 tons per lift. Even their most ambitious lifting operations topped out at around 100 tons using complicated multi-crane systems. Now compare that to the Baalbek trilithon stones. 3 stones weighing around 800 tons each, carved with precision, perfectly leveled, elevated 20 feet above ground. This is not Roman engineering. It's not even close. Even more telling, Roman historians who wrote obsessively about their achievements never once claimed to have built the giant stones. They praised their own roads, aqueducts, cities, and temples, but remained silent about the most impressive stones ever quarried. Why would the proudest builders of the ancient world ignore their greatest engineering achievement unless it wasn't theirs? The engineering that shouldn't exist. To understand the mystery, you must imagine the impossibility. Imagine quarrying a stone the size of a train car. Imagine carving it with flat, sharp angles. Imagine sliding it out of bedrock without cracking it. Imagine transporting it down a slope without losing control. Imagine moving it more than half a mile without modern wheels, engines, or hydraulics. Even today, with our advanced cranes, lasers, and computer modeling, this would be a challenge. In some cases, it might even be impossible. Modern engineers have tried to recreate the feat on paper. Most attempts fail due to physics. Friction alone would make movement nearly impossible. The amount of manpower required would be absurd. Tens of thousands of workers pulling with ropes that would snap under the strain. So what does this mean? Either A, the builders were using techniques we don't understand, or B, they were using technologies we have not rediscovered, or C, they belonged to a civilization that vanished, leaving only stone behind. None of these options are comfortable, but Baalbek does not exist to make us comfortable.
The stones that defy our timeline. Archaeologists assign Baalbek's foundations to different cultures depending on who you ask. Some say Phoenician, some say Canaanite, some say Bronze Age tribes. A few reluctantly say unknown pre-Roman builders. A few argue for a civilization that predates written history altogether. What complicates things is that the foundational stones do not match the construction techniques of any of these groups. Not the shaping, not the scale, not the engineering logic. The cutting style is unique. The tool marks are mysterious. The precision is unmatched. It's as if the builders belong to a culture with far more advanced knowledge than any neighboring group. A civilization not defined by pottery or metalwork or glyphs, but by megalithic architecture. Civilizations leave patterns. Baalbek's unknown builders seem to have left only one pattern. They built big. Unnecessarily big. Impossibly big. Why? Was it symbolic? Was it technological necessity? Was it a response to a world that experienced massive earthquakes? Or was it simply a tradition passed down from an even older culture? Whatever the reason, this style does not appear in known historical architecture. It appears like an echo before recorded time. Section 5. The Younger Dryas Clue, a civilization lost to disaster. To understand the mystery of Baalbek, we must consider Earth's recent past, not millions of years ago, but 12,000.
This period, known as the Younger Dryas, was marked by catastrophic changes. Sudden floods, rapid climate shifts, and massive melting of ice sheets transformed the world. In this chaos, any coastal or river-based civilization would have been devastated. Entire cities could have been swallowed by rising seas. Knowledge could have been erased in a matter of decades. Stone structures on high ground, however, could survive. Is Baalbek one of these survivors? Göbekli Tepe in Turkey shocked the archaeological world when its age, over 11,000 years, was confirmed. Suddenly, humanity was forced to accept that organized, technologically skilled civilizations existed far earlier than expected. And Göbekli Tepe is only one example. Sites like Gunung Padang in Indonesia, the mysterious platforms of Sicily, and even parts of Egypt show evidence of older layers beneath newer construction. Baalbek fits this emerging pattern perfectly. A megalithic foundation, a younger temple built on top, an unknown culture erased by disaster, a later civilization inheriting the site and reusing it. If this pattern holds true, the builders of Baalbek may not have lived during the Roman era or even the Bronze Age, but in a forgotten age when human knowledge was deeper than we once believed. Section 6. The Tools We Lost. To carve and move stones this huge, the builders must have possessed knowledge of geometry, mastery of leverage, advanced quarrying tools, techniques for friction reduction, a system for transporting multi-ton blocks, precision measurement tools, and architectural knowledge far beyond that era. None of these appear in the archaeological record. We find pottery shards, we find bones, we find primitive tools, but we never find the tools capable of shaping 1,600-ton stones. Why? Perhaps the tools were not metal. Perhaps they were wood or composite materials that decayed. Perhaps they were lost in floods. Perhaps the builders were travelers, seafarers, or a global culture with few surviving artifacts. Or perhaps they used a technique we simply cannot identify today. Stone does not preserve everything. It only preserves the parts meant to last.
The alignment mysteries. One of the strangest facts about Baalbek is its alignment. Like Stonehenge, like the Great Pyramid, like many ancient structures across the world, the site aligns with solar events. Its layout reflects celestial patterns. Its orientation appears deliberate. Why would a civilization obsessed with megalithic architecture also track the stars? Perhaps they used astronomy for navigation, calendar systems, agriculture, ritual significance, knowledge preservation, or architecture planning. If they were a seafaring civilization, detailed sky knowledge makes perfect sense. And if their culture relied on oral tradition instead of writing, they may have encoded their knowledge into stone architecture. The sky does not change. Stone does not decay. Together, they form a library that can survive even a global catastrophe. Was Baalbek one of these sky libraries of an ancient world? The legacy that should not exist. Baalbek is more than an archaeological site. It is a wound in the narrative of history. It forces us to ask, why does the earliest part of Baalbek show the highest level of sophistication? Why are the older stones more advanced than the newer ones? Why does technology appear to decline instead of evolve?
What happened to the people capable of this? Where did they go? Why did they vanish so completely? Civilizations don't usually disappear without leaving behind more than stone, unless something catastrophic erases them. And if Baalbek is the survivor of that catastrophe, then it may hold more answers than we realize.
The megalithic mindset. Why build bigger than necessary? If you look at human engineering across history, you notice something fascinating. Civilizations tend to build just large enough to meet their needs. Egyptians built pyramids because their religious ideology demanded permanence and scale. Romans built arches because they were practical, strong, and efficient. Medieval builders constructed cathedrals that reached toward heaven, fueled by religious devotion. But the civilization behind Baalbek, they didn't just build big, they built absurdly big. Blocks that surpass any structural requirement, stones so huge that they defy logistic sense, foundations so massive that nothing built on top could ever justify the effort below. Why? There are several theories, and each one opens a door into a different mindset. Theory A: monumental permanence. Perhaps these builders understood time on a scale we don't. Maybe they witnessed natural disasters, earthquakes, floods, climate shifts, and realized that small structures crumble easily. If you want something to last through ages, you build it with stones so large that only geological forces can move them. From this perspective, Baalbek's foundation wasn't just a platform, it was an anchor against time itself. Theory B: a lost structural technology. Another possibility is that the giant blocks were not the challenge, they were the convenience. What if the builders possessed tools or methods that made cutting and moving enormous stones easier than shaping many smaller ones? If they had a way to reduce friction, manipulate weight, or applied leverage unknown to us, then working with giant blocks may have been normal for them. To us, 1,000-ton stone is madness. To them, it might have been standard practice. Theory C: symbolic or ritualistic purpose. Civilizations often build large to communicate power and connection with the divine. But Baalbek stones go beyond religious symbolism. They feel like an attempt to defy nature itself. Some scholars suggest that megastones conveyed messages of stability, cosmic alignment, or the presence of a higher form of knowledge. But again, we are left with questions. Why did they disappear? Why did their techniques vanish? Why is their legacy only stone? The Lost Quarry, a window into an ancient technology. To understand Baalbek, you must go to its quarry. Here the stones lie half-finished, half-carved, half-forgotten. The largest stones ever attempted by humans rest here, frozen in time. The stone of the pregnant woman, 1,000+ tons. The stone of the South, 1,650+ tons. Another even larger block was recently discovered beneath them, weighing nearly 1,900 tons. These were not accidents. They weren't natural formations. They were intentionally shaped. And the most shocking detail? The stones show a degree of precision that cannot be explained by primitive chisels. Their sides are flat. Their corners are sharp. Their surfaces show evidence of regulated, methodical cutting. No haphazard scraping, no rough primitive technique. This was an industrial-level operation. When researchers examined the quarry closely, they found straight tool marks indicating controlled cutting, surfaces leveled with impressive accuracy, evidence of removal planning, channels carved for separation, signs of advanced quarry sequencing. All of this shows one critical fact. The quarry wasn't a place of experimentation, it was a place of mastery. Whoever worked here knew exactly what they were doing. And then, suddenly, they stopped. The stones remain unfinished.
not because they couldn't complete them, but because something interrupted them. A catastrophe, a cultural collapse, a migration, a flood. Whatever the cause, the quarry froze in time, locking the mystery into the landscape.
The transportation problem the world cannot solve. Let's address the biggest challenge of Baalbek, moving the stones. Transportation is where most traditional theories break down. Even if ancient builders could cut these massive blocks, moving them should have been nearly impossible. Let's break down the known obstacles. Obstacle 1. Weight. A single trilithon stone weighs around 800 tons. A modern military tank crosses 60 tons. A large locomotive is 180 tons. The heaviest mobile crane in the world can lift about 1,200 tons, but only in ideal conditions, on reinforced platforms using modern steel and hydraulics. Ancient people had no metal cranes, no industrial winches, no wheels strong enough for this load, no roads capable of handling the weight. So how did they move the stones? Obstacle 2. Friction. Dragging a 1,000-ton stone across rough ground would require enormous force. Even with rollers, the pressure would crush wood, the ground would deform, the rollers would break, the ropes would snap. Physics does not cooperate. Obstacle 3. Terrain. The quarry is not on a flat plain. The ground is uneven. The approach includes slopes. The platform itself sits higher than the quarry. To move the stones uphill requires even more force beyond what human or animal teams can supply. Obstacle 4. Precision. Even if the stones somehow reached the site, lifting them and placing them with perfect alignment is another level of difficulty. Without cranes or hydraulic systems, this should be impossible. And yet, the stones are placed as if it were simple. So where does that leave us? Possibility 1. Unknown mechanical tools. Some researchers propose that the builders used mechanical devices that left no trace, wooden cranes, levers, windlass systems, but all reconstructions fail under real physics. Possibility 2. Earth modification techniques. Perhaps they built dirt ramps or earth mounds, but constructing such ramps would require more labor and time than the construction of the stones themselves, and there is no archaeological evidence of such structures. Possibility 3. Lost knowledge. The most compelling theory is that these builders possessed a method of manipulating heavy weights that we no longer understand. This is not magic. It is lost engineering. Civilizations have lost technologies before: Roman concrete, Greek fire, Damascus steel. Humanity loses knowledge far more easily than we like to admit. If a pre-Ice Age civilization had advanced engineering techniques, and if they were wiped out suddenly, their tools and writings could have vanished, leaving only their stones behind. Precision that should not exist in the ancient world. One of the most overlooked aspects of Baalbek is the precision of the stone placements. Many of the foundational stones fit together so tightly that you cannot insert a blade between them. This implies perfect leveling, perfect squaring, perfect alignment, perfect load distribution. This level of accuracy requires advanced surveying tools: plumb bobs, water levels, calibration rods, precision markers, and simple but accurate sighting devices. But the scale suggests even more: laser-like precision, perfectly horizontal surfaces, angles measured with extraordinary care. It is as if the builders had knowledge of geometry, stress distribution, weight transfer, foundation sinking, and long-term stability. These are not accidental. These are the traits of master engineers. And yet, there is no record of them. How can a civilization with this capability leave no trace except stone? Unless something erased everything else.
The astronomical signature. Ancient civilizations often aligned their structures with the sky. Baalbek is no different, but its alignments are too old, too unusual, and too precise to match Roman intentions. The Romans aligned structures with political or religious goals, but Baalbek's foundational alignment appears to reflect solar solstice paths, lunar standstills, star patterns, and precession-related alignments. Some researchers propose that Baalbek's older platform aligns with star positions from 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. If this is true, then Baalbek's origins cannot be Roman, they cannot be Phoenician, they cannot be Bronze Age. They would belong to a world before the Ice Age ended. This would make Baalbek one of the oldest astronomical monuments on Earth, if not the oldest. And that changes everything. A civilization spread across continents. Baalbek is not alone. Across the world, megalithic structures share bizarre similarities. Gigantic stones, mortarless precision, celestial alignment, underground quarries, massive platforms, and unknown origins. Examples include Sacsayhuaman in Peru, Ollantaytambo, Pumapunku, Gunung Parang, Gobekli Tepe, Easter Island platforms, and Giza Plateau foundation blocks. These cultures had no known contact, yet they followed the same architectural patterns. Why? Theories include a global, lost seafaring civilization. Perhaps an advanced maritime culture spread knowledge across continents before the rising seas wiped them out. Independent development. Or perhaps solving engineering problems with giant stones is a universal human impulse, though this seems unlikely given the similarities. Inherited techniques. Could it be that all these cultures inherited fragments of knowledge from a shared ancient source? If so, Baalbek may represent the pinnacle of that knowledge. What the Romans actually found. Imagine the scene. Roman soldiers marching into the Bekaa Valley. They see colossal stones already in place, stones unlike anything in their empire, foundations so grand they dwarf the ambitions of Rome. So what did they do? They built on top of it. The Romans often reused older foundations when building temples. They didn't destroy Baalbek's megaliths, they honored them. By raising their own temples on the platform, they preserved the older structure. The Romans left columns, decorative capitals, walls, sanctuaries, and altars, but none of them compared to the foundational stones. The fact that the Romans built on top of the platform tells us something important. They respected the structure. They probably didn't understand how it was built. They may have even viewed it as sacred. In ancient cultures, when something is too old to remember and too perfect to replicate, it becomes holy, and Baalbek became sacred ground.
The deeper we travel into the mystery of Baalbek, the more one truth becomes unavoidable. This site is not merely an architectural achievement. It is a message carved into stone. A message from people who either possess knowledge we can't recover, or from a civilization so ancient that human memory simply couldn't carry them into the present. When archaeologists first began working here in the modern era, they expected to find answers, chronologies, inscriptions, telltale signs of the builders. Instead, Baalbek answered their questions with more silence. No ancient diary has ever been found describing how the trilithon was moved. No engineering blueprints have emerged. No royal inscription claims responsibility. Nothing explains why such a gigantic foundation even had to exist for a temple that realistically did not require blocks of that size. It's as if the true purpose wasn't functional at all, but symbolic. The builders wanted permanence, immortality, continuity. They wanted something that would outlive earthquakes, wars, and the vanishing of cultures. If their goal was to leave behind a monument that couldn't be erased, then they succeeded, with perfection. And now, thousands of years later, we're forced to confront the possibility that ancient people may not have been primitive in the way we imagine them. In fact, they might have possessed a form of knowledge, scientific, mathematical, or even spiritual, that simply did not survive the collapse of early civilizations. The world we know today, our textbooks, our timelines, our assumptions, was shaped by what managed to survive. But Baalbek is the rare exception. It's not a record preserved on clay. It's not a library that can be burned. It's engineering so massive that it cannot be destroyed, rewritten, or ignored. It forces us to confront the blind spots in our understanding of history. Look at the alignment of the stones. Look at the leveling accuracy across a platform the size of a football field. Look at the seamless junctions between blocks weighing as much as 1,200 tons. This wasn't trial and error. This was mastery. And mastery doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's the product of generations, maybe thousands of years of accumulated expertise. Which brings us to the most controversial idea surrounding Baalbek. What if the civilization responsible for the foundation did not disappear by accident? What if it belonged to a timeline so ancient that later cultures built their own myths around it, trying desperately to preserve fragments of memory? Phoenician myths say the giants were involved. Jewish traditions talk about fallen angels. Islamic legends say supernatural beings assisted in construction. Roman writers admired the precision but admitted they didn't understand it. These stories, though separated by thousands of years, point to a common belief. Whoever built the original platform was unlike any culture known in recorded history. But the real breakthrough comes when we compare Baalbek to other megalithic sites across the world, places separated by oceans, with no known contact but sharing a suspiciously similar story. In Peru, the ruins of Sacsayhuaman show impossible polygonal blocks that lock together like a puzzle. In Egypt, the Valley Temple contains granite blocks weighing hundreds of tons. In Turkey, Göbekli Tepe demonstrates architectural sophistication older than agriculture. In Lebanon, Baalbek holds the largest stones ever transported. Different continents, different climates, different cultures, yet the same signature, precision on a scale that modern machines struggle to replicate. It's almost as if multiple civilizations inherited fragments of knowledge from a single predecessor, one that existed long before recorded history began. And that possibility leads to a profound question. If an advanced civilization existed before the traditional timeline of human development, what happened to it? Did a natural catastrophe erase them? A flood? A comet? Massive climate collapse? Or did they simply dissolve, fragmenting into smaller groups whose descendants built the earliest known cultures? Some archaeologists argue that the world before 10,000 BC experienced violent environmental swings, melting ice sheets, rising oceans, sudden cooling periods. Such events could easily erase entire societies, and if those societies had built structures designed to last, Baalbek may be one of the few surviving clues to their existence. Others believe the builders were not a vanished civilization, but rather a group of ancient engineers whose knowledge became mythologized over time, turning real people into supernatural beings. In this view, the giants and angels were not literal, just distant memories of extremely skilled builders whose abilities seemed godlike to later generations. But whichever interpretation you prefer, one thing is clear: Baalbek doesn't fit the standard story of human history. It's too old, too big, too advanced, too unexplained. Even today, engineers debate how the trilithon was moved. Some propose ramps, others rollers, others sleds with lubrication. But every model requires resources and logistics on a scale that no known ancient culture in the region possessed. No quarry marks show ramp construction. No remains of giant work platforms have been found. The theories multiply, yet none explain how the stones were lifted into place with such precision.
This is why Baalbek has become a magnet for researchers, historians, engineers, skeptics, and dreamers. Each group arrives with their own theories and leaves with more questions than they came with. But maybe that's the point. Maybe Baalbek was never meant to be understood at first glance. Maybe it was designed to challenge future generations, to make them reconsider what human beings are capable of, to remind us that the story of humanity is not as linear as we think, that progress is not a straight line, that civilizations rise and fall, sometimes leaving behind achievements so advanced that the next era must rediscover them from scratch. Imagine a world thousands of years from now. Suppose our modern civilization collapsed and only fragments of skyscrapers survived. Future people would stand in front of those ruins and wonder, did they really build this with their bare hands? How? This is exactly what Baalbek forces us to do today, look backward and question everything. As we come to the end of this exploration, one truth stands above the rest. Baalbek is not just a site, it's a whisper from humanity's forgotten past, a reminder that our species has lived through cycles of brilliance and collapse, that knowledge can be lost, rediscovered, and lost again, that we are not the first to look at the world with wonder, ambition, and the desire to build something that defies time. Wherever the original builders came from, whatever tools they used, whatever motivations guided their hands, they succeeded. Their creation still stands, challenging us, inspiring us, daring us to dream bigger. And perhaps that is their greatest message, that human potential is far deeper, older, and more extraordinary than we can ever imagine. So the next time you hear someone say that ancient people were primitive, remember Baalbek. Remember those stones. Remember the silence of the past that speaks louder than any written record. The truth is not lost. It's right there, in the foundation of a structure so massive and so perfect that even today, in the age of modern machines, we can barely comprehend it. Baalbek is not just history. It is a question, one that echoes across time, demanding that we seek answers, no matter how uncomfortable, mysterious, or awe-inspiring they may be. And perhaps, somewhere buried beneath layers of myth and forgotten ages, the real story of Baalbek still waits to be uncovered.